This video landed on your For You page for a reason. Everybody tells you that you just need to be more aware of your thoughts and your beliefs and your negative self-talk. That's not enough, okay? You need to ask yourself where this negative thought, where this pattern, where this belief came from. Because just becoming aware of it implies the thought originated from you. And I can almost 100% guarantee you it did not. Every negative thought we have about ourselves can be traced back to somebody else. Because we weren't born hating ourselves. We were conditioned and taught by society to do so because that's what benefits everybody else. You would not believe the amount of people who are threatened by you not hating yourself. Like, it's kind of crazy. We can't rewire ourselves if we don't put things where they go. Y'all know that saying, a place for everything and everything in its place? Yeah. That counts with like negative thoughts and stuff too. We cannot let go of things if the box that that thing is in is still labeled ours. If you move to a new house and your mom complains about the mess that your room is in because all of the boxes are in your room and she insists that all of those boxes in there are yours because the labels say your name on them, but you open the box and everything inside is actually hers, are you going to hold on to it? Are you going to keep it in your room? No. Why? Because it doesn't belong to you. So you're going to turn around and give it back to its rightful owner. Your mother. Do the same thing with the negative thoughts you keep noticing you have. And for a cool party trick, if you spend time analyzing the negative thing that somebody has said to you, along with other negative things that they've said to you, the way they behave towards other people, and the environments they either constantly find themselves in or the ones that they create for themselves, you might discover the insecurities that they're trying to dump onto you so they don't have to deal with it anymore. I'm just saying. Be kind to yourself is so generic. What does that even mean? I'll tell you. Give yourself what other people aren't giving you. Okay. Your friend who has time for everybody else but you. Okay. Guess it's K-drama and anime night tonight. Oh, you shouldn't wear that crop top because your stomach is showing? Wear one shorter. That one girl who can't let anybody be prettier than her telling you not to wear makeup because it doesn't do anything for you? Walk out of the house with blue eyeshadow on. Anytime you get that feeling of somebody taking something from you that was gonna make you happy, give it to yourself. The part of you that got the warm fuzzies before miserable Miranda meandered on over to you, yeah, that's the part that you need to hold on to. And you know what's so funny about this whole journey of like self-prioritization and self-care and everything is that it usually starts from a place of neglect. Either you neglected yourself or other people neglected you. And if you start your journey because other people neglected you, you start finding the ability to give yourself things that you initially thought you could only get from other people. And sometimes that means breaking away from the people who just would not be who they said they'd be for you. But then when you do that, they get mad. Like what? You were actively not being that person. And you knew that. But as soon as I became self-sufficient and stopped needing your... Can you stop hitting the camera? But as soon as I became self-sufficient and stopped needing your half-assed pathetic promises, now you're upset? Sounds like you just wanted a place in my life without putting in the work for mutual benefit. Funny how that works out. A while ago, I saw a post that said, "Why would you hurt yourself with the words of those who don't know you?" And I'll be honest with you, I used to love this post. I used to be like, yeah, absolutely. Why would I be affected when I already know who I am, especially after all of the work I've put in to do so? But lately, I've been reevaluating how much I actually agree with that post. Y'all know that I'm all about confidence and not absorbing projected insecurities from other people. But just because I'm responsible for my own healing doesn't mean that I'm gonna remove responsibility from other people when they hurt me. Them not knowing me doesn't mean that the words can't hurt. And it also doesn't mean that I'm doing it to myself. It's not always as simple as just letting it happen. People do genuinely play a role in how we feel about ourselves, and even the people who make posts like this know this. That's why we grew up with phrases like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, and think before you speak. In my opinion, the phrase "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words could never hurt me" is bullshit. All it teaches is self-dismissal and negligence. Posts like this imply that people are allowed to say whatever they want to us, however they want, without consequences, just because they don't know us. and we're supposed to just ignore it because they don't know us. And that's not how that works, because this is the same mindset of the people who say the absolute worst, I mean mind-blowing, out-of-pocket shit you've ever heard in the DMs. Because they don't know me and they'll never read it, so it doesn't matter. Knowing full well it absolutely would matter if it was them. And then when you do respond, suddenly it's, well, I didn't think you would respond. I didn't mean it. I actually love you. I could tell you about yourself, but you're not gonna like it. Improving your confidence and your self-concept can definitely help like soften the blow of these words so they don't hurt as often, especially if they come from certain people, because then you know it's likely just jealousy, envy, or resentment. But nobody should ever say that we'll just be completely unaffected. You don't have to act on it, but you shouldn't be expected not to speak up about it. Confidence doesn't mean that you never get hurt. It means that your self-identity and your self-concept acts as a shield, so the hurt isn't as devastating. Okay, so this point actually goes back to the point that I made about the boxes in your room that your mom assumes is yours because all of them have your name on it. Challenging negative thinking is great, yeah, sure, absolutely. But don't underestimate the power of uncovering its origins. Putting blame where it belongs helps speed up the process of kind self-talk. It's hard to silence a voice that you still think is yours. And sometimes proper voice reassignment helps uncover insecurities that also don't belong to you. That's when you really realize, oh, this isn't my issue. It's theirs. They're just trying to use me as a sounding board. This isn't about me. It's about them. They shifted blame and you took the bait, and my computer is asleep, and that is a problem. Good thing it's still recording though. I think one of the really sad things about people who are very insecure and shift everything off to other people is that those emotions, you'll find that I'll mention this a lot on this channel, but emotions are not meant to be ignored. They're a huge clue and provide a lot of insight into things either about you or in your environment that need to change so you stop feeling like this. The emotions are not the problem, they are the symptom and the kind of like the, what do you want to call it? They just point to the problem. They help you discover what the problem actually is so you can go about solving it. But most people won't sit with their emotions because they've been demonized for so long, and then as soon as you get thrown into adulthood, it's like, okay, now you need to have control over your emotions. How am I supposed to have control over something you basically told me not to go near with a 10-foot pole? So what ends up happening is these insecure people, they end up in situations that kind of trigger or reignite or remind them of their insecurities. And their mindset is, okay, I was with you when this happened, so this is your fault. Not, hey, she was the trigger to a clue about myself. No, she's the one that caused the problem. And that's not how it's supposed to be taken, but when you're insecure, everything is about other people. Everything is everybody else's fault because everybody is trying to attack you. They would feel so much better about themselves if they actually dug deeper into, hey, why did I feel so uncomfortable when this one attractive guy told her that she smelled good or her dress was pretty or whatever? Why did I get hurt about that? Why did I look at her and decide, ugh, she thinks she's all that? Does she? Or did she just get a compliment? And then they could think, oh, okay, she got a compliment. I wanted that compliment because I see her as somebody who doesn't actually put effort into her appearance, which is unfair because I put all of this effort into my appearance and I didn't get the compliment. And I wanted the attention and the validation from him. So what I actually want is attention and validation, but why do I want it? Well, what if I could give it to myself? They never have that thought process. If they could just reframe what goes on inside of them when they feel like attacked, I guess, by another person, they could achieve healing so much easier, and then all of a sudden they wouldn't be so damn insecure all the time. But because they're so convinced that everybody is attacking them and everybody is coming for their lives and out to get them, they shift blame to where everything is everybody else's fault. So if it's everybody else's fault, why would I look inside me for the answer? Because it's not my fault, it's theirs. They need to look for the answer. Everybody needs to stop attacking me. Even though it's my own mind that's attacking me, but that's not the point. They could literally find so much healing if they would just do that. But they shift blame instead, And that's why everybody else has to deal with the insecurities. And it's so bad, it's to the point where now we have names for them. That's how we ended up with a pick-me. A pick-me is just severe insecurity combined with a very problematic concept, which is called misogyny. And she could feel so much better if she would just look inward and use the feelings that she gets being around other women she's intimidated by to just be like, okay, what is it that I feel like I'm lacking, and how do I create this? How do I fill this void? So essentially, I said all that to say insecure people are extremely dependent on other people. Pat yourself on the back because they can't survive without you. That is not the point of this video, oh my gosh. So if you set a boundary with somebody and they cross that boundary, but they make amends for it with their behavior or with an apology, don't say it's okay. This is a form of fawning, aka people pleasing, because it's not okay. If it were, you wouldn't have had the boundary. Say thank you, or I forgive you, or apology accepted. This is more so for you than the other person because it helps you rewire your brain to not be so quick to coddle the other person's feelings or to like immediately try to diffuse the situation. Part of the people-pleasing response comes from a discomfort with like tension and negative emotions from other people. You're rushing to get rid of it because you don't like how it feels. But in reality, you should not be more, what's the word that I'm looking for? You should not be more uncomfortable or disquieted than the other person because it was your boundaries that were disrespected. Obviously, having your boundaries disrespected is gonna feel uncomfortable. That's why it's a boundary. But if they're the ones who crossed it, you should not feel more uncomfortable than them. They should feel more uncomfortable for crossing your boundary. You feeling more uncomfortable is a sign of guilt for having the boundary in the first place. You're allowed to have boundaries, and the idea that you're not allowed to have boundaries is directly out of people pleasing. So allow people to be intentional about respecting your boundaries and then making up for it properly when they don't. Because remember, you're not a burden. No, you're not. Exactly, don't argue with me. For the love of all that is good and holy, it is okay to infuse joy into things. Do not let people tell you that you're soft or whatever kind of bullshit for filling your mornings with things that you just genuinely love doing before work. No, they don't have to be productive. They don't have to be nourishing. They don't have to be like completely drenched in the realm of wellness. You can genuinely just do things because you like doing them. They boost your mood. It's like, it's natural, what is it, serotonin? Dopamine? It was one of those two, whichever one is the happy hormone. Dopamine and serotonin are both happy hormones, but I think dopamine is the one that like rewards you for like getting things done, and serotonin is just the one where like you're happy. I don't remember. But yeah, let me tell you about something about joy, okay? Joy is inconvenient to those who need you for what they need to get done because it triggers their anxiety about neglect. And it's offensive to those who constantly put themselves on hold for other people. You will get to them when you are ready. Physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, whatever. And they will be okay in the meantime. Other people's anxious responses and reactions to life are not your responsibility. And by the way, don't be so busy using success and recognition to ground you that you forget how to be a human being and love on yourself. You're the one achieving things. You need it. Asking for help and then pushing people away in the middle of receiving the help you just asked for because you suddenly decided you were a burden is the reason you don't know how to accept help. That's where it starts. You're overthinking accepting help. If you're gonna create a support system for yourself to break generational patterns and curses, you do have to be willing to accept help because that's also a form of breaking curses. And a lot of our families created or amplified their own problems by refusing help out of excessive pride. So what does that look like? If I'm carrying a heavy box up the stairs and stuff is falling out of my hands and a random stranger comes up and says, "Do you need help?" I'm not going to sit there and struggle and be like, "No, I got it." I don't get it. Another person perceived that I might potentially be having issues, and I'm over here gaslighting myself about it. They came up to me and asked if I wanted help because they wanted to help me, but they wanted to make sure that was something that I was okay with. Anytime you find yourself trying to reject somebody's help, that is the first question that you need to ask. Why am I trying to convince myself I am not okay with receiving help? Did I just say receiving help? I meant receiving help. but you knew that already. It goes back to the point that I made earlier about you not being a burden, which goes back to, okay, who taught me I was a burden? Uncover the source of that negative thought, and then stop giving them so much control over your life. Let them help you with the box up the stairs. You can only blame other people for your issues so many times before you'll eventually be forced to realize that your rigidity and self-neglect is part of what's causing the issue. Having compassion with yourself isn't unrealistic. I do not give a damn what other people tell you. They tell you that because they don't know how to have compassion for themselves. Why is that something you should now have to be punished with because they haven't figured it out yet? Y'all got nothing to do with each other. And even if you did, you have your problems, they have theirs. Help each other, yeah, absolutely. But I don't have to suffer just because you haven't figured something out yet. I'll help you. I'll hold your hand through the process. But I don't have to take on your suffering. If other people aren't giving you the empathy that you crave, then you need to start giving it to yourself. Start with noticing the times that you were ignored and figure out what needs would have been met through them otherwise. Then meet those needs another way. For example, if I go out with friends, and I put friends in quotations for a reason, and the entire night everybody's talking over me, I can't get a word in edgewise, they're not even looking at me, and their backs are like turned to me, it's like I'm not even there, I'm kind of just there like taking up space in the chair because the reservation said we needed exactly 12 people, then the next time I feel like my social need needs to be taken care of, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna call one of my friends, I'm gonna call one of my cousins, I'm gonna go on Discord and see what's going on in some of the servers that I'm in. I'm going to meet my need for social interaction another way. I'm not going to rely on this social group that has decided I'm not an integral part of it. If I reached out to a friend because I'm going through something, like maybe I'm being turned into a social outcast, or I was going through a breakup, or I don't know, I'm failing every class in school or something like that, and I just needed a shoulder to cry on and somebody to tell me that everything's gonna be okay. I need serious empathy right now, right? If that person was dismissive of what I was going through and was like, well, everybody has problems, just keep trying, you'll be okay. Toxic positivity on aisle 3? Then what I would do to fill my own need for empathy in that moment is I'd go home and I'd pull up my Notion, you could do this wherever you wanted, but I would pull up some form of a journal and I would just write about what I'm feeling, and then I would write to myself the words that I needed to hear from somebody else. So in that moment, it would kind of be like I'm splitting myself into two different people, the me that's listening and then the me that's speaking. And I would say, it's okay for me to have the emotions that I'm having about what I'm going through because this is a hard situation. If I didn't care as much about the situation, I wouldn't have these emotions. It's okay for me to care. I'm struggling because I'm a human being, and that's okay. I'm imperfect, and that's okay. And I would just keep going and keep going and keep going. If I really needed it to feel like it came from somebody else, I could maybe, if I was in a different frame of mind, like if I wasn't like sobbing, crying, boo-hooing, I would just record myself saying like, you know, those positive affirmations or whatever, and then listen to it and let it feel like it's coming from somebody else. Or I would find affirmations that somebody else has already recorded and listen to those instead. That way I get that feeling of somebody else giving me empathy and the comfort and the compassion that I'm looking for. It is true that we do need people and we should be able to trust and rely on other people, but there are some people that cannot be trusted, truly, especially not with empathy and emotions. And we have to be learn to we have to learn to be self-sufficient in those moments, because if they don't pick us up and we don't pick us up, then who's picking us up? Find your people, find your social connections, your social needs, whatever. But always be able to take care of yourself just in case that falls through. Because you're gonna go through so many social groups before you leave this earth, but you're always gonna have you. You should not be only your backup plan, but you should absolutely still be your own backup plan. I cannot speak English today. What is wrong with me? Should I have done this video in Spanish? It's not even my native language. And by the way, and this is gonna drag some of you, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. Having compassion for yourself is easier when you don't constantly base your emotional state on how useful you feel.